You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast, the #1 resource for growing your function musician business. If you're a solo wedding singer, part of a 12-piece luxury show band, or anything in between, and want to learn from other successful musicians, you're in the right place.
You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast. This is Season 3, Episode 12. My name is Jack, and I am the host of this podcast. If this is your first time listening, then welcome. This podcast is all about helping you grow and manage your function musician business. Each week, I sit down with an amazing guest, and we discuss what's worked for them, what hasn't, and the valuable lessons that they've learned along the way. And together, we'll explore how to build a successful business without burning out in the process. So I haven't done one of these little intros in a little while, but I just wanted to jump on and remind people that we are doing the mini episodes again after this season ends, and we're still gathering some questions. We only have space for a few more. So if there's anything specific that you are struggling with in your business, then let me know what that is, and we will answer it on the podcast. And you can get in touch with that via Instagram or email, and both those links are in the episode description. And just before we get into today's episode, this one was all a bit last minute. I had an interview booked with someone else, but the guest had to postpone, and then I didn't have any episodes in the bank. So I thought I was going to either have to do a solo episode or replay an old episode. I suck at doing solo ones, so I did decide on replaying one. And so I got in touch with Ian Marx, who was on Series 1, just to let him know that I was going to be replaying the episode. And he said, well, why don't we just record another one and make it sort of a part 2 to his original episode, which was all about turning your band into a business. So yeah, go back and listen to that episode if you haven't already. That is Season 1, Episode 30. And Ian is away doing some traveling at the moment and is staying in a hostel, so it gets a little bit noisy at times with just a general background noise, but hopefully you can forgive us for that, as this episode is packed with loads of great info. So yeah, that's enough from me. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Ian Marx. You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast, and on today's episode, I'm very excited to be joined for the second time by the wonderful Ian Marx. Ian, welcome back to the podcast.
It's great to be back, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, this is all very last minute, and I very much appreciate you coming on for this episode. So last time we spoke, the episode was all about making your band your business, and that's genuinely one of the most listened to episodes that we've had. And so many people, if I meet them, they're like, and they listen to the podcast, they're like, oh yeah, no, I love that episode. Ian is super knowledgeable. So yeah, I'm very excited to be doing a sort of part 2 to that episode, where hopefully we're going to dive even deeper into some of the things that come with running your band as a business. But before we get into all of that, I'd love to know kind of what you've been up to for the last year, because it was about a year since that episode. So yeah, what's been going on with you? What's been going on with the band?
How has it been a year? That's absolutely disgraceful. Like, time just disappears, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Been a really, really busy year for gigs, which is great. Just had quite a hectic summer of weddings, done some really cool corporate stuff. We played at the Amex Stadium in Brighton, which was a really nice full circle moment, considering that I used to work for American Express, and something I'm sort of playing for people there. So very happy about that. Lots of backpacking, been working on my travel blog. Filmed a load of new promo for the band. So yeah, just really, really busy on the gig front, and yeah, just loving it really. What was the
gig in Brighton, and what was that for?
So it was for one of the football games. We were kind of warm-up act for the players, which is really cool. So it was really nice. A couple of people that I used to work with at Amex were filming it, so we've got some great footage of my massive head on the screen as we're performing, which nice one for the memory bank. But yeah, it's just a really, really cool gig, and things are really cool at the moment.
Yeah, was that your hometown, Brighton?
Brighton is the hometown, yeah. So I've lived there for about 20 years. And so that was a really big full circle moment.
Yeah, good, man. And so, yeah, I mean, we're just coming up to sort of the end of the year now as well. Like, I mean, what have you got any plans for the band for like coming into the new year or anything like that?
Yeah, so we've got New Year's booked, which is great. And I think that's one of the things when you're running a band or in a band, having that kind of placeholder date booked sort of in advance is like a huge relief, because I think when you're budgeting across the year, knowing that you've got New Year's booked makes a huge difference, because it just kind of sets your year up on the trajectory that you want to go in.
Yeah.
So for next year, really, we're just going to continue what we've been doing all along, really. One thing that we'll probably have a chat about today is just about expansion and what that kind of looks like, because I think for us, keeping things running and, just constantly evolving and, updating the promo all of the time, I think that's just something that keeps the momentum going for the band.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you, is your December quite busy as a band? Because I feel like I've spoken to a couple of people, maybe not so much bands, but that they're finding that this Christmas is a little bit quieter than maybe normal. But
I think it's interesting because our November is really booked up, which is really unusual, because often February and November, like the bastard months where you're kind of a bit like, complete kind of famine. But I mean, for us, we're getting quite a lot of midweek stuff in. So whereas we might not necessarily booked every Friday and Saturday, those kind of midweek bookings, and a lot of them are repeat bookers as well. So there'll be companies that we've done Christmas parties for that have booked us kind of like year after year. So I think in general, I think what you're hearing is right. I think that there is a kind of reticence around December to, book these Christmas parties, because I think that's really what people are noticing, the pinch of that. But I also think that they are booking a little bit closer to the date. So, if you are running a band and you're a bit worried about December, I would just say hang on a couple more weeks, because often after half terms as well, we often see like an uptick of inquiries coming in.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I suppose it's like, obviously everyone is feeling that pinch a little bit at the minute. And is that it then? You think people are just spending less on Christmas parties, and one of the first things to go, if you're having one, would be like live entertainment, when you can make it a bit cheaper by not doing that, obviously.
I do think that it is sort of, this, I hate to use that terminology, but a cost of living crisis. But I think in general, there's kind of like a confidence thing. And I think for the big companies, they are the ones that tend to do the downscaling. I think the mid sort of sized businesses and sort of startups, and they tend to have that budget and they want to spend to keep their employees happy. But I think sometimes it's a perception thing. I mean, I know when I worked at Amex as well, as soon as the credit crunch hit, they started cutting kind of employee stuff down. But I would just say one of the things to have in your back pocket, if you are a 4-piece, potentially make sure that you've got like a duo option, just in case, let's say their budget is cut in half. You've got something that you can offer in your back pocket for those situations. Yeah.
I guess a side note, some people that when they listen to podcasts, they hear an episode and then they just start listening from there on. Yeah. Whereas me, I like, if I find a new podcast, I then, okay, cool, I'm going back to the very start and I'm listening to it from that. But anyway, so if in case people haven't listened to the previous episode, let's give us a little bit of background on kind of who you are and your band and everything like that, just before we get going.
Sure. Yeah, so my name's Ian Marx and I am the founder of the Fireflies Party Band. So we're a 4-piece party covers band. We're based in Brighton. We have a very wide repertoire and go from anything from like the Arctic Monkeys to Stevie Wonder to Maroon 5. We've got sort of like a very varied repertoire of stuff. We're a very interactive band, so we dress very colourfully. We like to go out into the audience and get everybody involved.
Yeah.
And when I'm not performing in the band, I run my own travel blog called Ian's Tracks, which is basically I travel Europe on a shoestring budget and kind of make guides for people so that they can experience cities in a short space of time.
Beautiful, yeah.
And so hence why I'm currently in Munich with this lovely backdrop behind me, which is a very cool hostel that I'm staying in.
Yeah, I didn't. Had you started that last time we spoke? Because I don't remember.
Yeah, I think
if we spoke about that.
Probably just talking about other stuff, but Really travel is like my main passion, and I think what's incredible really with the party band, it's really supports me being able to backpack and, you know, create sustainably, because for me it's always been kind of like a surprise actually becoming a frontman in a party band. It wasn't sort of like what I planned to at the start, but it's just been, you know, the gift that keeps on giving. I think it just really affords me like the space and obviously the financial side of things to be able to do what I love doing, and to be able to do it sort of long term, which is the goal, the dream.
How long has the band been running now?
So we've been together for about 11 years.
Yeah, wow.
And been through lots of guises, lots of lineup changes. We originally a 5-piece band, indie rock. When that was a huge thing, that was what we were doing. We tried to jump on that wave of bands that were doing that. And, you know, we were actually formed for a live network. So they were doing a development plan. And, you know, looking at it retrospectively now, it was like a conveyor belt of the same factory band going out. And really, I think looking back at it now, I think it really just wasn't who we were as a band. We were just kind of like pigeonholed into this kind of niche. And it's so interesting that over the years, we've kind of like find our place in it, which is cool.
Yeah. Do you still work with agencies now, or have you got to a point where you're kind of running everything you're on your own?
I'm very surprised when I hear bands saying that they don't use agencies or they don't use paid advertising, because I think to kind of survive in this industry, I think you need to have like a multitude of different sort of leads coming in. So in answer to your question, we do use agencies. We tend to find that some of the smaller and mid-sized agents are the best to work with because they have got more time for their roster. We do still get quite a few gigs through agents like Entertainment Nation and Warble. Never had a gig through a live network in 11 years. So it works for some people. It works for, you know, it doesn't work for others.
Yeah.
Not dissing them, I promise.
I don't know how much you listen to the podcast, but I have recently started managing a karaoke band called Karaoke. They play
so cool.
Great name. They're a bunch of guys. They have a history of originals music. A couple of them were in quite a big band like 10, 15 years ago. So they're great musicians, great guys, but they have no knowledge of like the function industry at all. So they have like asked me to come on and help as like a managerial kind of thing, and I'm helping them sort of get setting up and stuff. So like I love this episode is going to be like really helpful for me personally as well, and sort of like testing my ideas with like the running the band as a business, because we're going in with that mindset straight away. Like they all have day jobs that they really like. They have no aspirations to do this full time. So the gigs, they don't want to do the low paying gigs that some bands might do to start with to build up to that sort of stage. They want to go in high end from the start.
It's so funny you say that, because I think to myself, well, why bother? Like, but I mean, that's just, you know, me being the contentious person that I am. I don't think that you can go into it half-heartedly. I think you either go into it, I think there are 3 different pockets. I think you have like bands that are able to do this full time sustainably. They put their heart and soul into it. They throw the investment, whether that be time or money, into doing it full time. Yeah. And you know, they're the musicians that you see gigging every single week. Yeah. You've got like a middle pocket of people who, you know, potentially have got sort of like part-time jobs or a full-time job and running the band alongside it. They're either happy to do that or they're able to do that. But for me, that's your hobby. Mm-hmm. You know, that's just my opinion. But then I think you have the kind of people who are either just doing pub gigs or, you know, they might be doing the occasional gig, maybe 1 gig a month. And, you know, there's no shade there. I think it's more of a case of, I don't think it's possible to have well-paid gigs and just be doing it as a kind of a part-time thing. I think it's so heavily saturated with really high-quality bands and musicians that, you have to put that investment into it at that time, because you're not going to get it back unless you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think you're 100% right. And they absolutely would see this as sort of a hobby / side hustle, I guess. And
I guess do it for free, I guess. But I mean, that's just like, and I don't want to sound like a, bigot, but I think, you can love it and you can enjoy it on that level. But I think, it's like wanting to take out of your bank account when you're not paying into it. It's like, it's managing that expectation, really. But then if they are talented and they are great, that will always rise to the surface,
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't have accepted this kind of role if I didn't think that they were good. And they do have passion for it. And I guess their kind of investment is that they can't do this. They've been going for a couple of years and they haven't got really nowhere because they've got no time to invest into pushing it forward, which is why they've kind of brought on me, and that's their sort of exactly. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. It's very early days at the minute, but I'm kind of interested to hear like some of the things we're going to talk about and like how that will work for the things that I'm doing at the minute. But I don't know. We've got tons of stuff to talk about. Where should we start?
Probably one of the things that we didn't talk about last time, really, because we did a lot about sort of like clients and the sort of agents, all of that sort of stuff. But I don't think we spent a lot of time talking about actually managing the band members themselves.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting that, you're just kind of moving into that role now. That might be a good place to.
Yeah, absolutely. Start. Yeah. I mean, it's like herding chickens, if that's the right saying. Like trying to get everyone together to like film the promo was an absolute nightmare. And one of them couldn't make it. I mean, fair enough. He was having a baby that week and, it's God, literally having a baby. That's amazing.
So
it's dealing with all of that kind of stuff as well. But I mean, you guys have been running for 11 years now. So I mean, any sort of tips on managing like people's diaries and stuff like that? Or
I think the best advice I ever learned was actually back in my corporate job, and the first time that I started moving into people leadership. One of the managers kind of took me aside and she said, look, the best thing that you can ever do is flip how you view managing people, because essentially you're there to serve your team. And I think that's always stuck with me, because I think there's this kind of expectation with a manager to walk into a room and kind of command things and tell people what to do. And whilst that is a huge part of it, at the end of the day, you're there to make sure that your team get paid. You're, basically providing work for people. But I think a lot of it really does stem down to communication, because the 3 people in my band, they're autonomous. So they just need to know where the gig is, how much they're going to get paid and what they're performing. They don't need me to change their nappies. They're like 3 really, talented musicians that have played with like exceptional artists. Like, it would be insulting for me to micromanage them, because they don't need that.
Yeah.
So
do they have any sort of input in sort of running the band or anything, or are they is that all down to you?
Well, it's a dictatorship, Jack. Like, this is how these things work. No, and we're just very open with one another. So, if we've got ideas or something's not working, people will speak up, and I like that. We very much put our heads together with things like promo and attire and set lists, and people have always got ideas, and I'm really open to that. For me, I want to retain these musicians. They could set up their own bands and do their own thing. So for me, I want to kind of create a culture and instill a culture within that band that they are happy to come to work and they're excited, because they're going to be the ones that are selling the band to the client. So if they're not happy, the client's not going to be happy.
Yeah. What is the culture that you kind of want to bring to the band?
I think a lot of it is just, that accountability. So like, for example, arriving on time, making sure that you've learnt the songs, the structures inside out, you know, a lot of it really is just about the visibility. So, you know, even things like when you're packing up at the end, I've got a rule that none of the gear should be on the dance floor. It should always be behind the stage line. And I think things like that I'm really on, and, you know, I can seem a little bit like a Hitler sometimes, but I care about it. I don't want the client to think that we're trying to get out the door.
It's all those small details, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it also stretches to deck players as well, because with this band, we have quite a busy calendar. So it's quite usual to have, you know, 1 or 2 decks on a gig. And, you know, I've tried to instill this culture with deps about not re-depping a gig, because the way that I look at it, if you've accepted an engagement for a band and you're basically going to either turn it down for a better paid gig or put another act before this band, that's not the kind of musician that I want to work with. Yeah. And I think I've probably pissed a few people off in the last few years where, you know, I've just been very rigid about not re-depping, because I think it just dilutes the culture. It just, you know, it becomes like a chain and people are basically just kind of stepping over each other, and we need to be growing this industry, not kind of, you know, trampling on each other.
Yeah. So what do you mean by that? Just that you have like a small pool of depths rather than going over.
So I've got probably maybe 6 or 7 regular players, and, you know, I treat them like band members. You know, everybody gets treated the same, everybody gets paid the same. But, you know, that trust that, you know, they'll be the first calls when, you know, one of the key band members isn't available. They'll always get the call first. And a lot of that is due to things like timekeeping, attitude, you know, wanting to help, you know, coil the wires at the end of the gig. Those are things that make a huge difference. And in some ways, I would prefer to have a person who's got a great attitude, who's really positive and funny and keeps the morale up, even if they're not necessarily the world's best musician. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if they've said hello to the client and they've made, you know, that client's day and they've kept everybody, like, their morale high, I want to book them time and time again.
Yeah, I've heard that quite a few times from people on this podcast, that it's not just down to how well you can play. It's so much more than that. Have you ever had any falling outs in the band?
What, with each other?
Yeah.
I think, I mean, it's natural to get annoyed with each other because you spend a lot of time together and people are tired. You know, I think we're kind of like, you know, it's like with me, I've been a bit short with people sometimes, but I think I also have to show myself a bit of grace because it's quite a high pressure job. You're not only dealing with the client, but you're sort of managing the band members. You've got to make sure everybody gets fed. You know, you're chasing payments, you're doing all of the admin behind the scenes. There are times where, you know, we get stressed and we're only human. But I think things tend to get brought up quickly before they fester. But I think a lot of it is just recognising that, you know, it might not be everybody's first passion playing a party band. You know, they might have got aspirations to do original music. They've got, you know, partners, they've got kids. You know, it's just trying to be understanding as well. You know, even things like, you know, if people need time off as well, I think it's just, you know, what you do for your team, they will kind of do back for you. So I think, I mean, definitely not fallouts with, you know, with each other, but I think definitely sometimes with clients.
Yeah. How do you manage time off and like holidays and things like that? Because obviously some gigs might be in the calendar months and months before, right? And some of them might be really important gigs as well. So, and some of those really important gigs might come in last minute. So how do you kind of manage that? Do you know when you're going to have a quieter period or?
So we've got a system in place. I've built a calendar just using sort of like an Excel sheet. But when you've got like core band members, we've always got the kind of principle that they're the first call for booking. So if, for example, they've marked themselves as out on the calendar, I won't book them for the gig and I'll go directly to that. So that kind of calendar management of just kind of making sure that you put your outages in it to begin with, that's worked really well for us. Sometimes there are conflicts and sometimes there are last minute things that come up and just treat them kind of on a case by case basis. But one of the things, I'm really kind of put in place is like the 6-week rule, which is, not depping a gig within 6 weeks of the actual date. Because, really it does kind of like dilute when, you've got to change like travel plans, logistics, things like that. So I just try and set that kind of precedent with people.
Yeah. So just being super organized basically. And again, that all comes back to communication really, doesn't it?
It's all about communication. Yeah. And I think it's the same with, making sure that people know how much fuel they're going to kind of be paid, things like that ahead of time, making sure that there's a band sheet, which is, if anybody doesn't know what a band sheet is, and again, sorry for mansplaining if you do know what a band sheet is, but it's essentially just a PDF document with all the timings, how much people are going to be paid. It will have the set list in there. It will have anything, kind of special requests, things like that. Having that ahead of time so that people have got that information so that they're not scrabbling around learning songs like 2 days before, which is not good for anybody.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you can explain anything too much on this podcast because there's such a range of like people that listen and that don't know what, and like from true beginners to some more veterans. But so let's move on to like selling your band. Then you've got a well-run band as it is. Like I feel like we've got EPKs here. That I feel like that might be a good place to start, because that's kind of what I'm sort of starting to create now for karaoke as well. So I mean, that's
so much.
We're a bit worried we might get sued for it. So
oh, don't. I mean, I've had that recently with like, just on the side note, which might be interesting, but we've operated as the Busketeers for a kind of like acoustic version of the band. And there's about 1 million different Busketeers out there. And I got sort of like quite a well-worded cease and desist from using the name.
Really?
So I mean, it was a little tricky thing to deal with, but I had a chat with the actual person that kind of manages, who owns that trademark, and he's like, just literally the thing that's causing confusion is like URLs. So he just said, look, even if you don't mind just changing it to the Two Busketeers, like that will just make our life a lot easier. So it's one of those things, something, it doesn't have to necessarily get nasty, but I think, it's one of those things you're not going to know unless you get the trademark of it. So it might be worth like.
What we're worried is obviously Kerrang is like, it's quite a big company. I'm assuming they don't have no idea that we exist at the minute, but we did have one sort of incident that made us question it. So one of the bass player, he has a connection with Download Festival, and they had a talk about potentially doing like a Thursday night thing at Download. But he was like, with that name, absolutely not, because obviously like Kerrang is like one of the sponsors, and like it's just not going to fly. So that was made us question whether we do change it or not, and we've decided that there is no better name. Like, we did. I guess what we didn't want to do is like make. Like work really hard on building this thing and then get something to say that we have to change the name rather than just doing it now.
Make that part of the story though. And I think,
that's what we've decided to do. We have decided just to go with it and hope for the best, but
I mean, the worst thing is somebody else needs to change your name, but at the end of the day, once you've established yourself, like, I don't think it matters so much about names. I mean, we used to be called Audio Riot, so we only changed the name, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, so that's halfway into our kind of function band journey, we changed the name, and it didn't really make a huge lot of difference because agents are booking you under different names anyway.
So anyway, sorry, back to EPK. So could you just let us know kind of what an EPK is and I guess what the best things to include in it are?
Yeah, so EPK, I shall mansplain to you, is an electronic press kit. And essentially it's a PDF document, and a good EPK will be very colourful, very economic with wording. And some of the things in there should be a little bit about your unique selling points. Your logo should be in there. Any kind of key things that you've done as a band. Reviews, testimonials, maybe a couple of those in there would be really handy. In our kind of press kit that we send out to clients, we'll send it via WhatsApp because we'll know that's 100% open rate most of the time. And be careful about attaching them to emails because the email that you send is likely to go into the spam folder because of the security on different email platforms. So my advice would be either sending it via WhatsApp or hyperlinking it. And if you don't know what hyperlink is, essentially you can use like a link where you embed a link to the actual document. So you'd upload it to somewhere like Google Docs, and the client would be able to access that by clicking the underlined link.
Yeah. So how does that look? So someone fills out for the WhatsApp kind of side of things. So someone fills out your website contact form. They obviously leave a number there, and then you message that number, that kit over.
Yeah, that's it. And putting things in place, if you use something like Wix or Squarespace, you can use these kind of custom forms that the client will fill out. In there, you can make it so that they can't submit it unless they put a phone number in, which, that can work in your favor a lot of the time. And in there, they'll give you an email address. And with the emails, again, I often find, because talking to people about money is something that I think a lot of musicians, they're not comfortable in having those discussions. And when you send out the quote, I think that does the heavy lifting so that you don't actually have to say, oh, we cost X amount. You just put it in there. And I often find that if they can't afford to book us, then, at the end of the day, that will save me a sales call. I think it's very clear if somebody can work with your budget or not.
Yeah, it's hard in the early days of that when you haven't got tons of inquiries coming in and you want to have a call with every single one because you like it's important to try and like close everything.
Yeah.
But it is actually a really good thing, especially down the line when you've got more coming in, where you don't waste your time on calls that were never going to lead to anything.
100%, and I think often I think you can tell from an inquiry if they are really keen on booking you. Like sometimes when they're like, "How much does it cost?" It's probably very unlikely that they're going to be able to afford you, and that's not being snarky. It's being honest with it. But I do think having a conversation with people on the phone is a huge thing, and I think when they can hear that you're a genuine person and they've got a connection with you, I think you're more likely to get the sale. But I think even before you get to that point, I think when you're putting your press kit together, I think you need to be really clear about what you're actually selling. Because the clients in general, there's a misconception because I think people think that they're actually booking music when they're booking a band. But the more and more I talk to clients, I realise what they actually want is somebody to keep people happy and entertained at their wedding, but essentially take the heavy lifting of the bride and groom. So, by interacting with them, I think what they actually want a lot of the time is for someone to bring people together and make sure they have fun. That's not necessarily music. The music is part of it. But I think when you're selling your band, be very clear about the kind of keywords. Like with us, we tend to use like high energy interactive because that's what the clients want. And I think from a lot of our reviews, we can see that's the thing that they really do love, is the fact that we go out there, we put silly hats on, we'll poke somebody with a glow stick. It's, I'll get up on the table and act like an idiot because I think those are the things that people remember.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you use EPKs with more corporate clients? Do you use it as to reach out to them? Like when I don't know if you even do this, but sort of like more you reaching out to clients rather than them coming to you.
That's a really good point. I don't know how much reaching out I do apart from contacting venues and, essentially I would say I've outsourced a lot of the lead generation to Google, different agents like Hits. So, I don't do a lot of the cold calling aspects of it. A lot of mine, they already know they want a band when they contact me. I'm fortunate in that kind of respect that I don't need to do that kind of level of, lead generation because I've got to the point where I'm paying to do that because that will deliver the type of client that I want. But in answer to your question, for corporate, we've got different press kits that have different attire in as well, and we're offering different things with it. So, for example, we call out the fact that they can use the mics for speeches, that they can send us an invoice for easy payment, things like that. They're things that you wouldn't necessarily include in a wedding press kit. Mm-hmm. And even the email templates are different. They are a little bit more corporate in their approach. So I would say to anybody who's setting up a band, make sure that you know what type of clients that you've got. With us, it's very clear that we've got our key kind of customer, which is 25 to 40 years old, most likely female, for weddings and 40th. That seems to be like the very sweet spot. And then we've got sort of like the other stuff, which is, let's say, 40 years plus, which is more sort of like either big milestone birthdays or anniversary parties. And then there's the corporate side of things as well, which is, again, a different type of thing. They want more of the kind of engagement side of things, so that, sometimes they just want background music whilst they eat. It just does depend.
But then, I suppose your wording would not lead to those types of bookings as much, right? If you're high energy, interactive, and they want background music, it's not gonna. I think
to be fair, sometimes that will be for different products. So that would be for, let's say, the Busketeers. That's the two Busketeers, I should say. Yeah. That's very much more sort of we are secondary to what's going on, and I think you can kind of gauge. They know what they want when they come to you, and it's just making sure that you've got the right offering for what they want. At the end of the day, I probably wouldn't try and sell a 4-piece to somebody who's got more of a sort of informal drinks reception, because it's going to fight with people talking. And I think that's the thing. It's just really listening to what people want is a really big key part of that.
Yeah, as you said at the start, I feel like everything, all of this comes down to is knowing who you're trying to speak to. Do you have different? Would you have different EPKs for different types of clients then? So as you said, so one that's more made for weddings and one that's more made for
yeah, and even all of the templates, when the quote goes out, I've got all email templates set up in Outlook, so they just literally fly out. One thing that people could do, which is a really good shout, is getting a list of towns and cities and having your mileage already worked out, so that you can just very quickly send out that quote. I would say, and this is probably unique to us and the fact that we've actually got somebody managing the band, but a quote will go out probably within 2 minutes of the inquiry coming in. And really, I think something like 60% more likely to be booked if you get back to them within an hour.
That's so interesting, because I've always sort of had it in my head, I don't want to seem too keen or seem too it's that goes back to dating. And I know it's ridiculous. Or I don't want to seem like I'm not busy enough. You know what I mean?
It's the same with follow-up emails as well. I've started looking into using some automation tools like Monday.com, for example, to start sending follow-ups out. But I've realised that actually setting yourself a sales day, for example, today is my sales day, I'll go in and then send up the follow-up emails for the quotes that I sent out last week. And I just don't care if I piss people off, because at the end of the day, if somebody gets back to me and be like, no, we're not interested, well, I'll just take them off the list.
And it just,
It's other things as well, like sending out a text message. If they haven't answered your WhatsApp, send them a text message, because sometimes people just don't log into WhatsApp. And same with emails. Try a different email without any pictures assigned to it, just to see if that's going into the spam folder. I'm quite persistent, but then I think I've got the time to be persistent. Some people don't. But definitely making sure you've got follow-ups in place.
Yeah, I would say 99% of the time as well, you're not annoying people. They just have busy lives and they've got other things going on, and it's just sometimes it's, thanks for getting in touch. I do want to go ahead with this. I just forgot essentially.
But I had that just 2 weeks ago. Like, I'd sent out a quote, and it was using Hitched, and with Hitched, it's an agency basically that deal with wedding vendors, and I'd sent them the first message on there to be like, thank you for inquiring, blah blah blah. I'd sent them a WhatsApp with the booking guide, and I'd also sent them an email, and I hadn't heard back. And in the end, I just sent them a text message and be like, hey, just to let you know, we do get booked up really quickly. Just let me know if you want to have a call. And literally within a couple of minutes, he's like, oh no, we really want to book you. It's just that we got a bit overwhelmed by wedding planning.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. And I think you're not, if you're doing something wrong, if you're not pissing people off, well, that's what I tell myself anyway, when I've alienated myself from the whole world.
How do you find Hitched? Because I get asked that question quite a lot, and I don't know much about it. I know how it works and stuff, but from what I've been told by people I have spoken to, you get a lot of inquiries, but not maybe as many bookings that come from it. No,
my experience is very different. In fact, I'm thinking about now apportioning some of the Google budget to Hitched because of the quality of clients that are coming in. And I would say that I think one of the reasons for that is that we hired a filmmaker like yourself to come to a wedding and actually make a film of the day. And that promo, when you look at some of the other acts that are out there, there's nothing like that. And I think it might be, rather than the agent and the platform being good, it's probably a promo that's not cutting through. Mm-hmm. But my experience with Hitched it's been excellent. And I would say probably about 1 in 8 of them probably will book. Whereas, in general, probably with us, it's about 1 in 6. So it's about the same across the board, I would say.
Yeah.
And that's roughly how many of them will book that we'll send out quotes for.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned a budget there, so your Google budget. So I guess that means that you do have like a set sort of advertising budget every month?
Yeah, it's a lot. And, I think if you are managing a band full time and you want to make it your full time job, I'm spending a lot on advertising. So, and I guess I can afford to do that, but we are charging in line with what we're paying in terms of, this advertising.
Yeah.
I would just say that even if you're paying to get a client through the door, the likelihood is that we'll find that 1 in 5 of our bookings, somebody from that wedding will then go on to book the band, or that bride or groom will then recommend us to one of their friends getting married.
Yeah.
So it's paid advertising. Literally, it's the best thing you can possibly do. It transformed our band. That's the reason I can do it full time.
What do you allocate like a percentage of, like, I guess you kind of know how much you're going to be making every month. So how do you figure out how much to spend on advertising?
Yeah, not so much of a percentage. I would say it's more of a cumulative thing. But I think every single penny that I've put into promo, whether that be paid advertising or filmmaker coming to film us doing a gig or photography or attire, every single penny has yielded more bookings. So I just think it's just an investment the whole time. You're constantly evolving. No money spent on kind of building your brand is wasted at all.
This episode is brought to you by Acoustic Backs and Tracks, your go-to source for premium acoustic back and tracks that sound and feel like the real deal. Whether you're performing at weddings, recording content, or just practicing at home, it's like having a professional band right there with you. Their tracks are recorded by top session musicians with real instruments and real emotion. No lifeless MIDI here. Need something custom? They've got you covered. From key changes to mashups to exclusive tracks made just for you. Plus, their customer support is fast, friendly, and actually understands musicians. No task is too big for them. And here's the best part. Listeners of the Full-Time Function Musician podcast get 10% off their first order. Just head to acousticbacksandtracks.com and use the code FUNCTION10 at checkout. That's function all in capitals and 10 at the end, but you can find their website link and a code in the episode description. Maybe let's move on to, because you mentioned expansion and that you're going to be doing that for your band. So let's get into that a little bit.
So I would say before we start that, probably one of the biggest mistakes that I've made and that I would, be quite humble about is thinking that expansion was something different. So for me, I'd always seen expansion as kind of sending out 2 bands at once, or, you know, potentially 2 or 3 lineups going out. But the more that I've done this, I've realized that the actual expansion should be internally. So should be more sort of like you expanding your repertoire, you know, things like adding more gear to your setup, you know, backing tracks, things like that, getting them produced. I've now realised actually, if you expand the quality of what you do, even if it's your base product that you offer, that can be much more beneficial in the long term by trying to run and think that you can manage 2 or 3 bands. Because whilst I'm very capable of running, you know, 2 or 3, or maybe even an agency, I realised that that's a hell of a lot of people management and logistics. And for somebody who's got a very short attention span, as you well know, it's quite difficult. So that's been the biggest thing that I've learned, that expansion is actually a lot more basic than sending out 2 or 3 acts.
Yeah. Do you have packages for Fireflies?
I mean, we just offer like a party package, which is 5 hours, which is essentially a manned DJ service, which is Bob here on the laptop on Spotify. Yeah. But essentially, it's just offering it as a package is the most simple way of doing it, because we wouldn't just go out and be booked for an hour on a Saturday night unless they were paying like good money, because that's another gig that we couldn't take. So calling it a party package or a wedding package or a corporate package, you know, the client knows that they're going to get their whole reception covered with lights and music. And I think sometimes having that discussion with them when you have your sales call is just essentially saying, look, we're there to do the heavy lifting for your party between these hours. Lean on us. You can go and chat to Auntie Nora, have a little, you know, schmooze with a cocktail, leave us to do all of that. So yeah, packages, just literally in terms of time and offering. Also with our lighting setup, we sell that too. So we're very much like, you know, you get a Vegas show, which is because we've got all of these ridiculous LED lights that take a little wee while to set up. But then when they come into the venue and they see those videos of it, they get that wow factor, and that kind of differentiates us from different acts.
Yeah. So you add that on as an extra. What do you have any other extras that you add on?
I mean, in terms of extras, it's just a base offering. So the lighting, the band and the DJ is just a standard thing that they get. In terms of extras, we'll upsell the acoustic duo. So, and we'll also do a ceremony with that too, because we're going to be on site anyway. You know, it makes sense for us to do that. And it's the same with like late finishers and early arrivals. They're extra things that we wouldn't necessarily sell, but they're able to have that if they need it.
Yeah. I mean, so I think you mentioned you're not no plans to sort of send out different versions of Fireflies. Then you want to keep that as it is.
I think in an idea, you know, to be really honest, I had ideas of like multiple brands going out, and whilst, and if you look at the return of the investment for making sure that you've got new promo, you know, getting that band tight, giving them their own identity, it's great in terms of creative, in terms of fun. But I think the reality is it's challenging enough to manage a team of 3 and the clients. I mean, at any point, I'll have got a pool of probably 50 or 60 clients, so that will be for years in advance sometimes. It will also be dealing with clients that we've done their wedding and I'm trying to get a review out of them too. So it's kind of like, if you want to do that, that's great. But I think for me, I've realised now that it's enough just to manage one great band rather than loads of bands, because you're diluting your time and energy and any investment that you've got. I would rather put that investment with this band, knowing that the players that I've got are putting their heart and soul into it. I've made the mistake before of trying to establish bands around singers, and sometimes they're very early on in their journeys and they don't necessarily know what they want to do, or they might be pursuing the original music thing. and it's kind of setting that precedent that, if you want to do this full time, you have to treat it with that full time mentality.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, is there anything else that we haven't discussed before we kind of move on to the next bit, that you think that we should discuss that we haven't already?
I think just on the expansion side of things, expansion can be your gear, it can be your digital setup going wireless. That's a huge thing, being able to do that. Also, like things like adding new songs to the repertoire, like medleys, attire, things like that will make a huge difference, and you should consider that as part of your expansion.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's about, I guess, making that show your show, like,
and
bigger,
I think that's
right?
it. When I have that discussion with clients, I'm very much like, we're not just a party band, we're actually putting on a show. We've got our own kind of Vegas show that's kind of like talking about it in the same way and showing that you care about it makes a huge difference to the clients too.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, normally sort of towards the end of the show we do a best gigs and worst gigs, but because you've been on before, we've done that before. So I would want something that you've mentioned in your notes here is some of the best things and worst things about the job. So maybe we can kind of do the same thing, but with that instead.
I think that would be really good fun. I'd say start with the worst things, get them out of the way. Pub gigs, I think they're great to cut your teeth with at the start of your journey, but I think having done this now for 11 years, the thought of stepping in and doing a pub gig with a load of drunk people, putting their drinks on my speakers and asking inappropriate questions, getting in my personal space when they're not paying me, that's like the things I really hate about the job. Some pub gigs with venues that we've got like a relationship with is so good to meet prospective clients and see clients that we've played at their weddings or come and see us again. So pub gigs can be a plus and a minus, but on the whole it's something that I would probably like to step away from in the future because I think I'm reaching the end of my tether with
I mean that's growth as well though, right? Like I feel like there's absolutely nothing wrong with pub gigs, and it is a great place to cut your teeth, and it is a great place to find new clients as well. But I think they're like you're never going to get the same money that you will from some of the higher paying gigs, and it's about growth, I think.
But I also think that in general, like a calendar full of pub gigs versus half a calendar full of functions, I just think that there's a scarcity mentality with a lot of musicians and function bands where they're like, oh, we have to fill up our calendar with pub gigs just to be seen to be gigging, and I don't think that you need to do that. I think each time you take a pub gig, you're closing off the opportunity to book a function. And I think it's one of those things, I think you either go wholeheartedly into it or you just treat it as like a hobby.
It's opportunity lost, isn't it? So sometimes you have to think about, there's like this analogy where you have to walk past the small pile of money to get to the bigger pile of money, and some people can't do that.
It's like learning to say no, isn't it? It's like, it's a difficult thing.
That is one of the most powerful things you can do, is learning to say no to things.
Like when someone asks you to do a podcast, you're like, no, I'm in Germany.
You could be out enjoying yourself right now, but no.
I could be. Who says I'm not enjoying myself now? Like, you're great company, Jack.
Thank you.
Some of the things that really annoy me, we did a gig last week, a wedding, where there was kids running around. They knocked over one of my lights, and that light is now damaged. So things like repairs, clients just getting a bit handsy with gear. And
what do you do in that situation? Do you charge the client for that, or you just take it on
What I do is I wait for the child to run past, and then I stick my leg out. And then it's so interesting because these kids, they fly. I don't take punitive action, but it's just one of those things that happens. It's just frustrating, but I guess that's why you've got to just put a bit aside on your budget to make sure that you can get repairs. It's very annoying. Losing things, I mean, having ADHD, I'd lose my head if it wasn't attached to me, but the amount of things that I've left behind, like, in-ear monitors, we're talking about hundreds of pounds worth of stuff that if it's not attached to me via a wire, and the irony of going wireless when you're losing things is just hilarious. But I mean, there's good, some of the other funny things, like recently I took us to the wrong venue.
Wow.
Basically, there's a venue called Sussex Barn, and there's a pub called Sussex Barn, and they're about an hour between them. And so I was really confident. I was like, no, it's at this venue. We turned up there, and I got in a call from the other car with the other two band members in, and they're like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "We're here." And they're like, "It doesn't look like there's a wedding going on here." I'm taking us to the pub. So then I had to phone up the client and be like, we're going to be a bit late. She thought it was hilarious. She was like, "Oh, you naughty." And ended up like doing that kind of balls to the wall setup where you're like literally dragging the lights out and putting them up. But it was okay. But these are funny things that kind of happen. One of the funniest things that happened was we did a wedding at the client's parents' house, and we'd done sort of like the main kind of setup, and there's like a little bit of time before everything was started. So the bridesmaid is like, come into the kitchen and do some shots. Well, I was like, oh, okay, I'll just do one shot because I don't want to be half cut when I'm singing. 2 or 3 shots later, I was like, oh my God, I'm shit-faced. And I've got to do the first dance. And then the bride was drunk, the bridesmaid was drunk, and it was like, oh my God, what have I done? Somehow managed to pull it out of my arse, but Jesus, that's just a lesson in just constraint. Just being like, I'm going to tell people I'm sober next time.
Yeah. What about some of your favourite things, man?
I think the key favourite thing for me is just being my own boss, like having the freedom to be able to travel and to do the things that I'm really passionate about. That means it means a lot to me because, 11 years ago, I was in an office job that I hated, staring out the window, just wanting to be a musician. And I don't take that for granted. So I would say that, when people ask that irritating question, oh, is this your full-time job? It's like, yes, it is my effing full-time job. I've put my heart and soul into this. So, yeah, I do, I do cherish that. I think also, with the light and the shade, some days I can't function because I have ADHD. I can't get organised. I have to do a lot of heavy lifting on technology and, to kind of help me stay organised and stay motivated. So knowing that if I have a day where I'm just so disordered that I just can't, even get myself dressed, I know that I've got that kind of support where, if I have to take a mental health day, I can take that, and I've got the confidence to say, I can't do any admin today. I can just call the client on a different day. I mean, I tend to not get overwhelmed at gigs for some reason on stage. Like I just kind of come into my own, but it's kind of, I think that's one of the things about just having a boundary with your work as well. Yeah. I think it's really important. I've got a separate phone for the band. Yeah. So if I am having that day, I can just literally hide that phone somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's important to know yourself and I mean we've talked about this loads on the podcast, but scheduling days off and like managing your time like that, because it gets a lot when you're self-employed in any job, it's all encompassing, isn't it? And it's hard to separate yourself from it.
Just live and breathe it. But I think I once spoke to a nurse and she told me something really interesting, because I just said, how do you cope when patients get ill that you've been looking after and they die? And she said, if you're doing a job that you love, you never switch off. And she said, it's a curse and a blessing. Those moments of seeing people get better, really stay with me. And then, I just choose not to focus on, the really difficult times. But I think, I found a way now to incorporate the party band with my travel. Like, for example, some of the clients that have booked us for weddings now follow my travel blog. Yeah. And, they're invested in that. And I think that's now growing into something else. And I'm really excited. There's songs that I've written that they've chosen as a first dance. So it's kind of like, I feel like it's coming back around again in terms of the creative stuff, which is nice.
Yeah, awesome, man. So I can't remember last time if I had introduced the quickfire round yet, but
go for it.
I haven't prepped you on the questions either, so
let's just go. Under the bus. That's all right. I like a bus on my head. It's fine.
So question 1: what is the most effective thing that you've done to market yourself or your business?
promo, pay money, get decent promo, don't get shit promo. Like, honestly, it's so embarrassing. And, I see some promo pictures and they've got like a music stand that's half covering the singer. And it's like, you're showing people that you haven't learnt the songs in a picture. It does my nut. So any money that you spend on your promo will come back to you. So yeah, promo.
Obviously, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
Get a decent videographer. Like, there's some really decent ones around. Like,
there are many decent ones around. There are actually some very decent ones around, not just myself. But anyways, what have you learned in the last 3 months that you wish you knew 3 years ago?
I was thinking of something really obscure then about like bot loaners and how they work. What have I learned? I don't know, I'm always just constantly learning just to kind of trust myself, I think. Just when I reach the kind of that point where I need to take a break, I take a break.
Yeah.
And I think that only just comes with experience. So I would just say I'm just learning to sort of trust my intuition and, I think probably knowing your constraints as well. That's something else that I've learned. I've realized that I can't do all of these things. That's why I outsource. So, yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. If you were just starting out now, what is the first thing that you would do?
Get some money. So I would either borrow some money or ask for investment. I would ask myself the question, why am I doing this and what do I want to get out of it? But I would have that expectation at the beginning, if it were me going into it, that I needed to throw some money at it.
Yeah, I think, again, we talked about this earlier, but people are a bit scared to do that sometimes. And I think you just got to realize that if you believe in it and if someone else is already doing the thing as well, then it can 100% work and you can do it too. That was something that I learned a long time ago.
It just needs investment, whether that's time or money. But I do think that, it's a very saturated industry. And I think you need to stand out from everybody else doing it, whether that's just you leaning into what you do well or, investing in something that will make you stand out.
Yeah, perfect. What's the biggest mistake that you've made and what did you learn from it?
Trying to expand, and not realizing what expansion is. I know we talked about it early on, but taking on the wrong musicians has really bit me in the backside. That's no shade to those musicians, but not really. I think it's like, learning to run before you can walk. It's one of those things. It's like, if I had known that expansion things that I'd started perhaps wouldn't see to the end of that process, I would have thrown that investment somewhere else. But I do not see it as wasted. I just think it's taught me to now back the best horse, and I think that's been a huge learning for me.
Yeah, great, man. Last question. Do you use any specific tools or apps to help manage your business?
So I cannot stress how useful Google Online Office is. So if you use things like Google Sheets or Google Docs, they've got a version of PowerPoint, using that to be organized, make templates, it's completely free and you can hyperlink. Canva is amazing for EPKs. Canva is so worth it because you can video edit, you can do all of your posters for your gigs. Canva is amazing. So yeah, definitely Canva and any kind of Google type office stuff. I think Outlook is amazing. Beautiful. And having Outlook and the templates built in saves me so much time when I'm sending out quotes. Oh, and WhatsApp Business, get a WhatsApp Business account because it's just game changing.
Yeah, that's interesting because I don't have a WhatsApp Business account. Obviously, I have a WhatsApp
Jack,
account.
I'm so disappointed in you. I'm disgusted.
I
wanted to
quite often
now.
People get in touch for for work stuff and it's mixed in with all personal stuff and the million group chats that you're involved in and whatnot, and it gets lost and I miss things and it irritates me a little bit, so I must invest in that. because it is such an easier way to contact with, to like, if you've got small questions that don't need to go through an email or something.
That's
like that,
it.
it's much easier.
100%. And, you know, even working remotely, so I'm currently out in Munich, and I've got an internet connection, I've got my laptop, and I've got my business phone. So if I need to call a client and have the sales call, I can take that call from where I am. And it's only, you know, I just literally got a pay-as-you-go phone, this one here, and literally £6 a month for a business SIM. And, you know, you've got templates built into it. You can send a video as a file to the client. I mean, it's amazing. Like 100% WhatsApp business, the way forward.
Perfect. Yeah, man. We're definitely going to be looking into that. So yeah, this has been really fun. Is there anything else you want to kind of leave the audience with before we sign off?
No, just like, I would just say for like anybody who is doing, you know, a function playing job, you know, don't forget why you're doing what you're doing, because at the end of the day, you're doing hopefully a job that you love. And I think that's the one thing that I forget sometimes, is that I'm actually living my dream. And I think, you know, if you're doing that kind of job, it's very easy to get kind of bogged down by the travel and, you know, getting fed last and things like that. But I think, you know, if you get it right and you get the balance right, and, you know, you are putting that time in, it can just be incredible. I mean, this year, like, I met a couple of clients before the day in person in Brighton, went for a drink with them, and they're like my friends now. So I think it's interesting, isn't it? If you go into it and you treat it as an extension of yourself, you'll get so much back from it. And I think for me, those are the little things that make it really worthwhile. When, you know, you've been there at somebody's like important day or something that they're going to remember forever, I guess don't forget that you're making memories for people. Yeah, beautiful, man. Perfect way to end. Yeah, this has been really fun. I really, really appreciate it. Again, I know it was very last minute and whatnot, but yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me. It's been a pleasure.